Welcome to the Your Gifts Matter podcast. This podcast is all about guiding, educating, and inspiring individuals around the world to access their true gifts, talents, and abilities. We believe that everybody has a gift to offer to the world, and sometimes you may need help, inspiration, and motivation to bring it to life. And that's what this podcast is all about. Our guests are here to share their story, their journey on how they brought their own gifts to the world, and show you how you can do the same for yourself. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon best-selling book, Engage, Connect, Grow. 52 lessons to guide individuals, corporate teams to the heart of what truly matters to them. Are you at a point in your life where you're ready to commit to seeing your life challenges differently? Perhaps you're struggling with performance at work, or maybe you're not sure how to handle a difficult situation. Maybe there's something you need to communicate and you're not sure how. Visit Amazon today and obtain your copy of Engage, Connect, Grow. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Your Gifts Matter. Happy to have Alexandra Koptyaeva. Did I pronounce that right, Alexandra?
Almost.
Almost.
Koptyaeva. Yeah.
Koptyaeva. Apologize for that. But yeah, you're the co-founder and CEO of ClearMind Keyboard. Wonderful to have you here as a guest today. And really looking forward to having you talk about your story and where you've come from.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. I know that before we chatted a little bit about your background, and you shared a little bit about your background with me, but for our guest, it'd be great to hear a little bit about, it sounds like there was a lot that you learned when you completed your master's in Sweden and entered the workforce, and you actually ran into some challenges with your mental health and emotional health. It'd be great to kind of hear a little bit about that and your journey along throughout that.
Yeah, I think skipping some details. I'm originally from St. Petersburg, Russia.
Okay.
And after I did my master degree in Sweden, I got a role in Athens in Greece. So I was relocated there. And I started back then in a new project that was focused on content moderation. And I was contracted by Facebook. And back then, and we were talking about like 2018, it was something completely new that hardly existed on the market. So right now, people in my role are called content moderators. Back then, we were social media reviewers. But basically, what we had to do was to review the reported or AI detected content according to Facebook marketplace policies. And then if we spotted some violations, we had to remove the content or maybe ban a person behind it. Right. So throughout the year in that role, and I was able to get promoted within the first 6 months.
Nice.
And ultimately, I became a team leader. What happened back then was that I realized that sometimes the content that I was reviewing began to affect my mental health to the point that I've got insomnia, I was stressed out, I was constantly under pressure of performing with high accuracy, so with a low, mistakes rate. And I was very scared to make a mistake because in that line of work, sometimes the mistakes are very crucial. So you don't know what kind of outcomes they might lead to.
A mistake, yeah, because making a mistake, what would, I guess that would mean that not appropriate piece of content would go out and could have detrimental impact, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so a lot of pressure there.
Yeah. And I think like what happened with me as well, like I was very, very young. I think like 23. And within the first 6 months, when I became a team leader, I was responsible for helping to supervise a team of 45 people who were much older than me. And in my role, I had to become a subject matter expert. Like I had to know what was wrong with anything that was on the screen. And I wasn't able to share the stress that I was dealing with anyone else. Not just because of my role, but I think because there was no one else out there who would relate to what I was doing and understand what I was going through.
And I'm just curious, you moved up very quickly within the organization, and you mentioned that you were leading people that were older than you. So What what skills and abilities, or like what did you access to be able to move up so quickly? What were you able to accomplish in such a short period of time to get promoted?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good question. I think like from the professional side, regardless of the company that I work at, I'm constantly driven to not only professional growth, but also personal growth. Uh, Whichever role I get, I don't want to just sit in this role and follow the tasks that are provided or like that I have to perform. I always want to go outside the box and explore what is out there and learn and share this knowledge with the team members. And I think like back then, that was exactly what I started doing. And I got noticed by the management. And that's how I got promoted in the first place.
Yeah, so thinking outside the box and doing things differently, that's fantastic. And then as you moved into that more responsibility and the pressure in that, it sounds like there was impact there. It was there were some challenges that showed up.
Yeah, so I think like what was happening was that the company was providing psychological support. But then, if anyone out there know the Russian mentality, I don't think that going out and admitting publicly that I might require psychological help is part of the culture. And I remember that within my team, anyone who would schedule a session with a psychologist was either bullied or pressured to cancel
Mm.
or constantly questioned. So within the first 2 to 3 months, it it became like a service that was no longer needed, um, simply because no one was willing to admit that they needed help.
Yeah, it sounds like it
Um,
was needed. It wasn't culturally accepted. Yeah,
exactly.
that's
So
unfortunate. Yeah.
yeah, and imagine like for me in my role as a team leader, right? Like publicly saying in front of my team that I reached the point that I need a psychological help. I need the intervention was kind of like a no-go.
Hmm.
Because of the role, because of the functions that I had to perform, because I think like of also my fear of the team pressure, plus the pressure of complying with the requirements for the position and the fear of losing the job. So yeah, I reached the point eventually that I got completely burned out. And after a year, I realized that I just can't keep on doing it anymore. Um, and again, I think like not only because of their role and its functions, but also because of the cultural stigma. Until a certain point of my life, I was not aware of the mental health. I was not aware as to how to protect myself, how to recognize what is triggering me, how to deal with mental health, what are the coping mechanisms, and what I can do basically.
Yeah.
And that age, yeah, was not the age where I knew anything.
Yeah. So would you say that, like, before you entered the workforce and before you were in your 20s, did you find that you weren't running into these like types of challenges that were impacting your mental health, or did you feel like you didn't need to have that support in the
Um,
past, or?
no, I think like there were certainly moments in my life where
Yeah.
definitely it would have been helpful to have a psychologist or to have someone to guide me through the challenges I was facing back then. But again, because in my family it had never been the case that someone would actively seek a psychological help.
Yeah.
Within my friendship circle, there was no one contacting a psychologist, so I didn't know what to do.
And
And I knew, mhm. Yeah, sorry.
was it the same culturally as growing up? Was it the same kind of stigma that you don't, if you ask for psychological help, that there may be some bullying, or you may be asked, maybe what, don't, it's questioned whether you need it or not? Is that similar to what was happening in the company? Would that happen when you were younger too?
Yeah, I think it was exactly the same, simply because
Yeah.
the team that I was managing were all Russian speakers from
Okay.
different parts of Russia. So in a way, like although they were all living abroad, they transferred the same mentality into the team culture. And that's what happened.
Oh, I see. So it sounds like it was more of a team culture than the organization per se. Was it more the
Um,
perception of the teammates? And
yeah, I would say so. I mean, on a
yeah.
global level, a company itself had more than 10,000 employees. with multiple language departments. And most likely in some departments, it was totally normal to go and seek a psychological help. In my case, because everyone starting from the higher management to the specialists were Russian speakers with a Russian mentality, I guess like the culture got transferred from one
Yeah,
country to
that
another.
sounds challenging. And how long did you, I think you may have mentioned it before, but just to kind of go back there again, how long did you kind of stay in it before you realized, okay, I am, because you mentioned you reached burnout. Like, did you stick at it for maybe longer than you really wanted to, but then and then you reached that point of burnout?
Yeah, so I think like what happened was that I reached the point of burnout, and I started constantly thinking like what else I can do outside of work that would help me to feel better about myself and kind of like decompress after
Mm.
work. Because sometimes like when leaving the office, I remember that I was so stressed, I was so tired that I didn't want to hear anyone, I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to go home directly and stay indoors, which obviously wasn't healthy. And what happened was that after almost a year, I took a vacation and I went hiking for 2 weeks to Armenia. And after I came back to the office and I realized that I can't do it anymore. I don't enjoy it. I clearly was very tired. I couldn't fit back into the office environment. And after less than 3 weeks, I just quit. I resigned. I resigned and I bought a one-way ticket to Latin America.
Wow.
Um, and I started building my life from scratch there. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like that time off really helped you reset kind of your perspective on things. And then so coming back to that environment, it really stood out to you as to, okay, this is not working for me. And then sometimes that time away can really help, especially when we're dealing with mental health challenges. That just taking that break, you know, getting off, going off on a hike in nature, like that's a great way to just get away from the busyness of the work environment, and then it makes sense that you come back and now you can have a different view on things for sure, right? And then
Yeah,
so then you
100%.
yeah, and then you just completely left. Like what did it take to completely leave to go to a different country? Like,
That was actually very easy.
yeah,
So I think like again, like this time on the nature helped me to for once or like for the first time in my life, think about like what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life? What do I want to achieve? And what kind of future do I envision for myself? Because I knew that once I was coming back from a vacation, I was about to get promoted again, meaning that I would have assumed even more responsibilities. And I realized that I don't want it anymore.
yeah,
I was just so young and I was scared as to how stable my life was becoming and like how predictable. So I remember that like literally sitting at the company office on Sunday. I was counting every single minute until the end of my work shift. And I told myself that I can't. I just can't keep on lying to myself anymore. I can't keep on pretending that that's something that I want to do for the next many years, moving on. And I remember checking one-way tickets to Colombia because I was watching some series before and I fell in love with Spanish, like with the language and the sound.
yeah.
And because all of the flights were going through Mexico, I was like, okay, I'll land in Mexico and I'll make it all the way down to Colombia through all the other countries. And then next day on Monday, I came to my supervisor and I resigned. And 2 weeks later, I was in Latin America.
Look at that. Definitely taking care of yourself there, realizing, okay, this is not working, and
Mhm.
have to take some time for yourself. And then what was that experience in Mexico like?
Yeah, so it was like going back time-wise, it was October 2019. So it was
Mm.
6 months before COVID. For
Oh,
sure, like
right.
we didn't know back then.
Yeah, yeah.
I landed in Mexico with zero knowledge about the country or about the language. And what I ended up doing was just traveling around the country as a backpacker for 6 months. And this time, because I was traveling alone, greatly helped me to first think and understand who I am as a person and learn how to listen to myself, listen to my intuition and to my inner voice. That was in a way like helping to guide me through different situations that I was facing while traveling. And I think like it certainly helped me to understand how I see my future and what I would like to do. What kind of people do I want to have in my life? What kind of company environment do I want for my next opportunity? And many other things. And then when COVID started, I think like a few months later during COVID, I was able to find my first remote job that was literally aligned with everything that I was looking for.
Nice.
Simply because I guess like in a way I manifested everything that I wanted within all these months of traveling. And I could say clearly like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And if something was closer to what I don't want to have in my life, I learned how to say no and walk away from that opportunity, regardless as to how attractive it might have been, so that I could stay aligned and true to myself.
Nice. And what did you find worked best to access that intuition and to really figure out what you wanted? How did you manage to do that, do you find?
Yeah, I think like just being on the nature quite a lot. So I was trying to hike or be next to the sea as much as I could.
Nice.
Um, Thinking quite a lot. So it's definitely not a 1 day process, right? Like I had to go back into my memories and to remembering certain events in my life and thinking as to how else I could have managed some situations. And based on that, just trying to find the conclusions as to what worked and what I could have done better, and trying to learn from that experience.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of reflection and
Yeah.
and learning from where you came from and really getting clear as to what you actually want to yeah, to not run into those same, especially the work situation, not run into that same situation again, and getting very, it sounds like you got really clear.
Yeah.
This is
And
what I
I think
want, this is
like
what I don't want. Yeah.
exactly. So right now it has been more than 4 years since I've been traveling and working remotely from Latin America. I did make it to Colombia. Now is my fourth time in Colombia within these years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I think like now I got even more into this reflection mode. So I've learned about, I guess, like alternative mental health treatment ways as to like mindful journaling, mindful sessions, yoga, self-reflections, and these kind of things to learn even more as to how I can listen to myself.
And do you find that you learn that from being there? Like those are the ways that they approach mental health in Latin America?
Not only that, but I think
Yeah.
like because I've been thinking about my mental health quite a lot.
Hmm.
I just started meeting people who are either coaches or they provide some kind of alternative mental health treatments that does not include, let's say, like any pills or any medicine. And I started learning more about that and just trying different ways and I guess like thinking and seeing what works and what doesn't work for me personally.
Yeah, finding out what works right for you, right? Because there's lots of different there's lots of different tools and methodology out there, and it sounds like you're really exploring, okay, what's going to work best for me when it comes to my own mental health. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um,
And so now you're the co-founder and CEO of your own company,
it's
ClearMind
um
Keyboard.
Yeah, I think like what happened was that like almost 2 years ago, I met one of the co-founders here in Colombia, although he's not originally from here. And we got the chance to travel together across 8 different countries here. And I've got introduced to the second co-founder who was working together with my first one, like was another co-founder.
Yeah.
And The idea of this project came, I guess, like out of nowhere, that we can use something that one of the co-founders had been building, which is the AI detection tool in mental health, and build an app and the keyboard to integrate this AI detection tool. And yeah, the way it works is that as a user, you download the app, you give a permission to the keyboard, which looks exactly like any other keyboard that you have on your phone. And the idea is that as you type, let's say like communicating with your friends or taking notes, like any other, like anything where that requires typing, the AI behind the keyboard will be analyzing the context of your communication. And by the end of the day, you'll be able to see your personal stress factors. Not on the scale as to like 1 to 10, how stressed you are, but more like your top 3 stress factors of the day. Let's say like if you are anxious, depressed, like burned out, or going through a breakup, based on your communication, the AI will be able to detect it and show as well your awareness levels about your mental health and your happiness levels based on that.
That's amazing. That sounds like just an opportunity that was just came right. As you said, it just came out of nowhere, but I think it actually manifested in a lot of ways, because you were looking for something that was specific to what you wanted, and then look what showed up. And the environment that you work in for this new organization, how does that compare to where you were before?
So because we already like we all know each other, we all
Yeah.
have met in person before. That definitely greatly helps. So my co-founders are currently living in Brazil. I live in Colombia, so we communicate regularly online. But I think like also personally for me, what I came to think about when it comes to this project is that I've been struggling a lot because of the cultural stigma and the pressure of the society to conform and to always be happy, regardless as to how depressed you really might be, simply because of how the Russian society has been when I was living there.
Mm.
And in a way, for me, the keyboard is a perfect solution for people who might be in a similar situation that I've been in, who, let's say, like cannot publicly acknowledge that they might need some help, who cannot share their problems with their friends or family, and who are searching for a solution that they can have on their phone without necessarily other people knowing what is happening in their lives.
Right.
And I think like keyboard is perfect because if you think about it, like keyboard as something on your phone is most likely not a topic of your daily conversations. Like
That's
you
true.
don't discuss what kind of model of keyboard you use. Um, it just you just have a keyboard. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah. And what did it take for you to start your own organization? Like what like you've moved to a new country, you're trying to get used to living in this new culture, and then within a relatively short period of time, you've started your own company. So what did it take to do that? What skills, abilities, talents, gifts did you have to access to be able to bring that all together?
Yeah, so I think like in my role as a CEO, I represent the company. So one of the most important things that I have to do right now is to network, to find the investors, plus the marketing, which means basically talking all the time, talking for the sake of finding the investors, finding the early users, bringing awareness about mental health and the app itself.
Mhm.
And I think like all the skills that I've learned throughout these 4 years of remote work definitely help in doing that. But also this idea that I'm driven by that I want to help other people in the same situation definitely makes it easier to just go out there, be out there, and yeah, represent the company.
It's fantastic. And just curious, so when someone's using the app and they're typing in the keyboard, does it then notify them if it's recognizing that they're having mental health challenges? Like, how does it work when people are using the keyboard?
Yeah, so together with the keyboard, you download the app, right?
Yeah.
So once you download the app, then you install the keyboard.
Okay.
And whenever you open the app, you will be able to see your personal statistics based on what had been happening to you throughout
Oh,
the
okay.
day.
The app is there to help support you and make you aware of the language you're using and things that you're saying, that how it could impact your mental health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think like when you think about mental health, what is happening is that, let's say, like if someone is going through a breakup, they might be constantly thinking about that or like talking about it with their friends or family,
Right.
while sometimes forgetting that apart from the breakup, there might be some other mental health issues or stress factors that someone might be dealing with. And the app that we've built is out there to remind someone that, okay, apart from going through a breakup, you might also be anxious about your work. You might be also thinking about this or that, and you don't notice it because of XYZ.
Mm.
And yes, in the future, we want to develop what is called the improvement plans. So the personalized plans based on the stress factors that were identified as to, let's say, like if you are anxious, depressed, and something else, this is what you can do. If you have other symptoms, this is what you can do. So we want to help everyone to not only recognize their stress factors and what triggers someone to get into that mental health state, but also in a way like show what can be done to get out of that state.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's amazing work. It's such a creative way to be able to support people. And, as you mentioned, for those people that may be in a work environment or cultural and family environment or community where talking about mental health maybe isn't is frowned upon still to this day. I know it still can be. So it's a great way for people to get a help and awareness around that. Is there any, based on your journey and where you've been able to move from that stressful work environment and actually tap into your intuition and and get what you've really been wanting from your life and continuing to move towards that? Any guidance you'd have for any listeners today on some of the things that have really helped you?
Yeah, I feel like a few lessons that I've learned would be first to listen to your own intuition and to your inner voice. So if something like, let's say, a situation or a work environment doesn't feel right, um, try to think what is best for you. What is best for you as a person? Not because someone said that this is what you have to do, not because of the family or friends pressure to do something, but think about like what you as yourself see yourself doing. And number two would be probably like don't be afraid to take risks and change the situation if you don't feel comfortable being in it anymore. Because long term or like long run, it definitely will be much more beneficial for you and for your mental health. And take some time for yourself to learn how to listen to your inner voice, learn how to recognize when you are getting burned out or stressed out about certain things in your life, and learn how to, I think, like say no to a toxic environment and toxic people in your life.
I think that's such great advice, and to be able to see how you've come from where you were to now having your own company, being the CEO of a up and coming technology company, can be really inspiring for other young people that may be in that similar industry that you've been in, or a work environment that's in a similar challenges are coming up around stress and the pressure in that. So it's fantastic to hear your story, and really appreciate you sharing it with us today. And we'll make sure that in the show notes that people know where to find the app and can even try it out for themselves. Well, thanks so much,
Okay.
Alexandra.
Thank you.
Thanks.